Hi guys, it's Avery, and today I am doing a DIY handmade embroidery covered journal for you all. I will be doing other handmade journal tutorials. There's different styles of covers and different styles of insides. Today this is just one style, so I hope you guys enjoy it. Stay tuned for the end and I will announce the giveaway winner. Let's go ahead and get into the tutorial. So all the supplies you need are pretty simple. If you don't have anything, there's usually an alternative. So you're going to need fabric, any type of fabric, an embroidery hoop. If you don't have one, that really will be okay. Scissors, embroidery thread or regular thread, a pen or pencil, and a sewing needle. So you're also going to need paper. I'll talk more about paper later, but any kind of paper for your inside of your journals, and bookboard. I get mine off of Amazon. You can get them from anywhere that has craft supplies. If you don't have bookboard and don't want to get it, you can even use board from like a cereal box or cardboard. Remember, this is your handmade journal. Use the supplies that you have on hand. So I'm just splitting the bookboard in half. That usually gives me the size of the journal that I like. And then you can measure the side of the journal to the size that you want it to be. I usually like to do mine about an inch. I find that it covers 5 signatures full of 5 papers pretty well, which is what I usually do. And if that's too thick, then you can take one away, add some, do whatever you want. Some people like thick journals. You can make your sides super big. It's up to you. Next, you're going to cut out the fabric to fit the size of your journal. Lay out the bookboard to look like a journal, and I usually just cut around an inch away from the bookboard. You're eventually going to be folding this over, so it needs to be big enough to fold over, but not too big, because then that's too much. Here I am marking front and back of the bookboard, and then I'm just marking where the bookboard stops on the fabric, where it's all located. That way when I go and draw on it later, I can kind of tell where everything's at when I'm working with the fabric without the board on it. Next, you are going to write or draw your design for your embroidery. And so you can draw a picture, you can write words. I thought it would be really fun to just write noteworthy. You're going to put the fabric in the hoop. It gets really wrinkly in here, but you can just iron it before you put it on your board. Once it's in your hoop, you can start sewing. And if you don't know how to sew, there's plenty of YouTube tutorials. I'm going to show you my process. Hopefully that can be enough explanatory, but if not, like I said, there's lots of tutorials on YouTube. You go in from the back, and you go down, and then you go up a little bit further away from the inside, and then when you go back down, you want to go right back into the spot you went down before, so that way you can kind of get a stitching look. Next, you're going to glue down the bookboard onto your fabric once you have your design all done. I'm pretty messy when it comes to glue, as you can see. You just want to make sure it's centered and that the glue is flat on your bookboard. You don't want it to be too gunky or too in one spot, because you will be able to see that through the fabric. You want to make sure it's flat all around. And however you get that, however you accomplish it is fine. You can see I'm very messy. It's just a process and you got to learn it for yourself. But I had to move my spacing a little bit to match where my embroidery was. It wasn't necessarily centered like I thought it was, so that's always fine too. Next, you're going to cut off the corners of the fabric so you can glue and fold over. So as you can see here, I just glue around the edges and then fold over the fabric. And you want to make sure you push down really hard and make sure it dries before you start moving it. And then there you have it. Here it is. I have some like corduroy type of fabric so you can see it when you move it, but I really think this turned out pretty cute. Next, I'm going to show you a part of this journal process that you don't necessarily need to do. This is more important for a different type of journal that I'll show you in the future. I initially had wanted to do that, but then I kind of changed my mind throughout. So I'm just going to show you anyway. It's putting the paper down before you put your pages inside of the journal. Technically, you don't need to put this down, but I'm just going to show you how to anyway in case you are curious. So next comes to the paper. I like to use plain white cardstock paper. Sometimes I like to use decorative paper as well, or you can put lined paper, any type of paper. You just fold it in half and it fits perfectly into the size that I've already had. But what I like to do is have 5 signatures of 5 papers. If you don't know what a signature is, it's basically the stack of paper that you create to put into your journal. When you create this stack and keep putting pages in on each other, by the time you get to the 5th page, it sticks out a little bit because you're stacking it, so it's not all going to fit perfectly into your journal. How we are going to fix this is by cutting it. I usually just cut the paper to fit the first paper, if that makes sense. So what I do with my paper cutter is I cut down to match the first line, and just a little bit. That way I can take them out individually and cut them individually, because if you try to cut a huge stack, it's usually too thick and it'll kind of rip the papers. You definitely do not have to do this. I have sold journals where I just sell the signatures as is, and I like the look of uneven pages on the end. So even when I'm doing this, they're not going to be fully even, because I just kind of like it like that. When you're buying a handmade journal or you're making a handmade journal, you just have to realize it's not going to be perfect. Things aren't going to be perfectly straight, they're not going to be perfectly even, and that's just the way I like it. It's handmade, it gives it character, and so you just have to remember that. If you want it to be extremely perfect, you're going to have to go to like a manufactured journal. So remember, just have it up with your personality. If you like uneven pages, then go for it. If you don't, then you can take that time to make it as perfect as you can get it. Completely up to you. So once you have gotten all the pages down to a similar size that fit inside of your book board, then we can start sewing the signatures. So I have a scrap piece of paper where I'm writing F for front and B for back. And this way it can help me remember. I'm also going to write top and bottom eventually. And then we're going to mark the dots on the side. This is going to help us make our holes to start sewing the pages together. You can definitely measure if you like things to be perfect. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. I like to measure when you can see the thread on the outside of the journal. I'm not doing that type of tutorial today, so it really doesn't matter. It's completely up to you if you would like to measure or not. If you're good at eyeballing it, then go for it. But once you've made 3 dots, or 4 or 5, however many dots you want, I do 3, take the signature and put the cover over it. And then you're going to poke the same 3 holes into the signature. Be careful to try and get it right in the crease. Sometimes it's easy to poke through the sides of the pages instead of right on the crease. As you do it, you'll kind of understand what I'm saying, so just be as careful as you can. Then we start the sewing process. So once you thread your needle, you're going to want to tie a knot at the end of the thread that you cut. You're going to want to go in from the edge circle from the outside. And I usually like to start from the outside, but throughout this you'll see that my thread actually ended up going through because the knot I made was not big enough, and that is fine too. So I will show you how to do it if you don't knot it at the edge. So once you go through the outside, you're going to go in through the inside and then back in through the outside. So you're just going in and out, and just kind of like normal sewing, but through the holes that you've already created. So no matter how many holes you've made, you're just going to be doing that in and out from the hole that's next to it. So I'm going to go all the way around. I'm going to show you through once, and then that way you can kind of get the gist of it, and then you'll just kind of assume that that's how I did it for the other signatures as well. Like I said, I originally tied a knot at the end of the thread, but the knot was not big enough, so it popped through, and that's okay because you can just tie it into 3 little knots if you wanted to secure it. That's also a cute way to just tie it off if you wanted. So now once you've sewn all your signatures together, I'm going to show you how to sew those signatures together. It's pretty much the same concept, just doing it with another signature. You're going to go in through the outside of the signature, and then you're going to go back out through the middle, but instead of going into the same signature, you're going to go in through the middle of the other signature, and you're going to combine those 2 together. Try and keep it as close together as you can, but it's kind of hard at first. You'll get the hang of it, I promise. Once you're in through the other signature, you're going to go back out through the next hole in the same signature. And once you're back out, you're going to go inside that same hole, but on the next signature over, not the same signature. So you can kind of watch and see what I mean, and eventually you'll get the hang of it. So you're doing the same thing that you did on one signature, but you're combining 2. And then eventually you're going to tie it all off once you've gotten it as close and tight as you can, and you are going to move on to the next signature. Once you start adding more signatures, don't freak out, it's the same concept. Only work on 2 signatures at a time. If you feel like all of your signatures are not close enough together, then you can kind of figure out how to combine them all by going in and out and going over to the next signature, then going over to the next signature. But I really only work on 2 at a time, the one next to it, and that's about it. And eventually they'll all be tied together. Sorry guys, this video has kind of been a struggle for many different reasons, and one of those reasons has been that I lost the footage of me actually putting the signatures into the journal, and I was going to redo it, but I promised you guys a video today. So that's what I'm going to give you. It's pretty easy, and I think I can explain it well enough for you to understand. So all you're going to do is find the page that you want to be your open cover page, and it can be cute or it can be plain. It's completely up to you. You're going to cut it down to size, basically the same size of the one that we cut before. But instead of laying it down the whole, you're going to glue it down onto the inside of the front cover and the very first page of your signature. But you're going to do the same thing for the back. You're going to glue a page on the back cover and the back page. And that way, your signatures are completely glued into your book. So you see here what I mean. You glue it on the front page, which I kind of use too much glue. You can see the bubbles, but I'll cover that up for the person I'm giving it to. And then you glue it onto the backboard. And you do the same for the back. So that's how you're going to attach it in here. It's pretty easy. I didn't want to use too much sewing for those who are new. So as you can see in the back, it pops out, but that's actually normal. If you look at some of the journals you may have bought from the store, that's pretty normal. So don't freak out about that. You can glue that down if you really want to. But that's pretty much how you do it. If you have any questions on that, please let me know. I'm so sorry that footage got lost. Here I'm just decorating the inside with some washi tape. You can make this your complete own. It's so much fun to do that. And the envelope is something that I like to put in all of my journals. It's a good place to put your information or any kind of journal supplies that you want to put in your journal eventually. It's just a good storage spot. I am giving this journal to the giveaway winner, so I hope they like this. Next, I wanted to show you a journal that I actually journaled in. And this journal is created exactly like the one I just showed you how to make. So I embroidered the outside, and on the inside I sewed the signatures and just glued them in like I showed you before. I wanted to show you this just to kind of show you how it can look once it's all journaled in. When you first create a handmade journal, sometimes it can be pretty stiff, and you just have to realize you just got to break them in. The more you work in it, the more you journal in it, the easier it'll kind of get, and the cuter it will be, and the more you will love it. So I just wanted to show you this since I created it the exact same way, but it's actually a finished journal. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, any questions, please comment them below. I will be making more tutorials in the future on handmade journals. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. And now I want to announce the giveaway winner. Thank you so much everyone for entering. I will be doing many more in the future. I really appreciate all of your support. The winner is Cassie.xoxo.xoxo. So I will be messaging you on Instagram. I'll be making my handmade journal collection for sale on Etsy. So if you didn't win this one and you've been wanting to buy one, I will try and have a journal collection up by the beginning of the month of February. If not the beginning, definitely the middle of February. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you guys in my next video.